began to think about the mind over the last few days, and I thought of the scientific mind. The scientific mind is critical. Perhaps you've heard the phrase test and verify. In the 19th to 20th century mind, the mind was often cynical. I'll believe it when I see it. In fact, I lived in Missouri for a while. It's called the show me state, after all. The 21st century mind, I don't know that I have a grasp totally on the 21st century mind, but I think in some ways it's a mind that says, I will believe what I want to believe regardless of the evidence. But I guess that mind is really the mind that mankind has always seemed to have. Because after all, sinful man will believe what he wants to believe, even if the evidence sometimes does not play out for his belief system. Well, what should the Israelites have believed, and how is that an example for us today? Remember, the Israelites were rescued out of Egypt. By the time these words are written, they've gone 40 years in the desert, and they're about to enter the promised land. But the time period that Moses is recollecting is at the very beginning of those 40 years. In fact, the first year or two when they've received the Ten Commandments and they're on the verge of entering perhaps the promised land in the first part of their journey in the wilderness. Follow along as I read these words regarding their time not at Mount Horeb, but now as we journey on to Kadesh Barnea. Moses says, verse 19, "Then we set out from Horeb and went through all that great and terrifying wilderness that you saw on the way to the hill country of the Amorites, as the Lord our God